Hello guys and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be talking all about the printing press that I use. Well, it's not actually a printing press, it's actually a die cutting machine, but I use the Xpress die cutting machine. It's not actually in this box because it's so heavy, honestly, like I could not hold it up in this box. But this is the box that it comes in. It's quite big, as you can see, like I can barely get it in frame. Let me just move back a little bit. So this is what it looks like. This is the box and the brand is the Xpress, as I've already said. And it's called the Xpress craft machine. It is originally a die cutting machine, so it's not used like it's not made for lino printing or anything. I just personally use it for lino printing. And I found this through some people that I follow on Instagram, and they used it as a printing press for lino printing. So I thought that it looked like it worked really well and I wanted to give it a go as well. I got mine for Christmas 2020. I got it from Hobbycraft UK. I think I ordered it online. I think it was either 60 or 80 pounds. I can't quite remember. The Range do also sell it, but they're out of stock all the time I check. So they are quite hard to find and they are like quite often out of stock in Hobbycraft and the Range. But I did get mine from Hobbycraft UK and I ordered it online. I think it might have cost like a bit extra for the postage because it is super heavy, so I think it cost like a little bit for it to be delivered, and when it arrived it was super heavy and everything. So sorry about the noise outside as well. There is some construction going on just while I'm filming this today, but anyway. So the Xpress comes with 3 plates, obviously because it is a die cutting machine, so it's for die cutting. It comes with this metal one. I'm not entirely sure what this is for. I don't actually use this. I've never ever used this. I obviously just have it because I bought the Xpress, but it has this metal one which is for die cutting, and then it has a much thicker one, and it says on the bottom it's the Xcut base plate. So I put this at the bottom of the press and it's kind of like the bed of the press, how I use it. So I use this one and I like lay my prints over the top of it to put them through the press. You'll obviously see this, I'll do like a demonstration and things so you guys will see a bit better. And then the last one is also plastic, it's much thinner. I don't think I mentioned, but these are all A4 and the largest size that you can print or die cut is A4. It doesn't do any bigger than that and the size isn't adjustable. Obviously you can cut smaller, but the plates and things are all A4. So this one is called the cutting pad, and I just place this on top of my lino prints to run it through the press. I know some people, instead of using this, they use like a thick blanket or something or a piece of felt, but I've just found that this works best for me. I did try it when I first got the Xpress using a piece of felt, but it didn't work for me at all because traditional printing presses, they do use like felt blankets or pieces of felt, and you like sandwich the lino print in between those. So I have seen some people use those on the Xpress, but I personally don't use those and they didn't work well for me when I tried it out, and I find that just using these 2 plates works perfectly for me. So now I'm going to show you how I print using the Xpress and give you like a talk through of how it works and like the kind of settings that I use when I'm using it for printing with lino. I only print using the grey SD lino on my Xpress. I have tried using like stamp rubbers and things like that, but they don't print as well for me. I found, obviously this is all just my personal opinion and everything that I do is just how I like to do it for my lino printing. But yeah, I've just found that using the grey SD lino is the best. That works the best for me. I can get a really clean print when I'm printing with it, whereas when I've used softer linos or surfaces and stamp rubbers, I found they tend to slide around a little bit in the press and they just didn't work as well for me, and I didn't get the kind of print that I wanted. So yeah, so today I'm going to be demonstrating using the grey lino, and I'm also going to show you my printing process, and I'm also going to show you how I make like a little registration device to help with printing cards and reduction lino prints and things, and so that you can get the paper lined up properly with the print. So I'm going to show you that as well. So I start off by placing my Xpress on a flat surface. I then unfold the sides of it down, and it has these pieces on the inside which fold the other way around to make like the base of the press. And then I use the Xpress base plate and I place that down on top of the flat surface of the press. And then I also use the Xpress cutting pad for my printing. Some people use like a blanket instead, but I find that this and the base plate work really well for me. The first thing that I do when I'm going to be printing is set the dial, which is on the top of the press. This controls how close together the rollers are, so the closer together they are, like the smaller the gap in between them is, and the bigger the number, the further away they are. So for printing lino, I generally have mine on number 8, and there's a tiny little arrow which shows you which number they're on. So these determine the size in between the rollers, so if you're printing something that is really small on grey lino or with like a really thin paper, you would use a smaller number, and then if you're printing something that is really thick, you would use a bigger number. Obviously this is a die cutting machine, so it does have quite a lot of space between the rollers just for die cutting, but I like to just roll through the base plate and the cutting mat just to make sure that there's going to be enough room for them before I put the lino in as well. And here I'm just demonstrating like how I roll it through the printing press, and also like showing you how much room there is in between the rollers when I use a bigger number and a smaller number. Today I'm going to be trying out 2 different types of paper, so I'm going to be using a thicker cotton rag paper, which is 320 GSM, and a thinner recycled paper, which is around 120 GSM, just to show you like how I set up the printing press for using these different types of paper. And as I already mentioned, I'm going to be using the grey SD lino. So the first thing I do is place my lino onto the base plate, and I like to line it up using the edge of the base plate. This is kind of like how I use it as a registration, putting the paper on top of the lino. I then just go ahead and place the paper on top of the lino and smooth it down. Then I take the cutting mat and I place it on top of the paper and the lino. I then just slide the base plate and the cutting mat with the lino sandwiched in between into the press, and then I start winding the handle. I generally like to wind it quite slow. Sometimes there can be a little bit of resistance when you are going over the lino and the paper, but that's fine. Like, it just takes a little bit of a push to get it through, but you definitely want to apply like as much pressure as possible. I then roll the whole thing through the press and then back again. This is just a personal preference that I like to do. I find it gives a cleaner print, but sometimes it can also cause your design to move, so it just depends on the thing that you're printing and whether that works for you, because sometimes it does work for me and sometimes it doesn't. So as you can see, I've just printed it on the thinner paper, and now I'm going to try the thicker paper. For this, I will be adjusting the dial on the top to make a little bit more space in between the rollers, just because the paper is quite a little bit thicker. So I'm going to probably take this one up to a 9 from an 8. Then I just go ahead and do the same thing, rolling it through the printing press. Here you can see I had quite a lot of resistance trying to get it through the press, but once I got like the first bit rolled through, it's absolutely fine. And then I'm just going to roll it back through the press as well. This is just like a complete personal preference thing. I just like to do this because I find it really makes the most of putting it through the printing press, and once you've taken the paper off, you can't put it back through. So I just like to do this because I find it helps with getting a better print. And with this one, I probably needed to apply a little bit more pressure, so I should have gone in between an 8 and a 9 rather than gone straight up to a 9, because as you can see, the print has come out quite blotchy. So now I'm actually going to print the second layer of the reduction lino print, and as you can see on the base plate, I have placed a piece of paper which has some like rectangles drawn on it. So I draw one rectangle on for the lino and then one around the outside for the paper. This is just a little registration device that I've made. This just helps me to line up the lino and the paper, especially this is like so important when you're doing a reduction lino print, so that everything lines up correctly. I generally just make one on a piece of paper and just draw around the outside of the lino. First, it's probably easier to draw around the outside of the paper and then place the lino inside the rectangle that you've drawn around the piece of paper and draw around the lino when it's in the middle, just so you know where to place them. So I hope that this video was really helpful for you. I've been meaning to film this for a really long time, but I wanted to make sure that I knew exactly what I was talking about with speaking about the Xpress and how I use it as a printing press, and I wanted to give it like quite a bit of time so I could get used to it and find out what works best for me so that I can tell you guys. I hope you found this useful. Please let me know if you have any questions or anything, or if you think that I've missed anything out in the comments below. But thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you liked it, and I will see you in the next one.